Coming up, it's the weekend of the derby as Italy, England, Germany, Switzerland and France all play host to massive fixtures. Elsewhere, the MLS playoffs hot up as the final four are named. And in Spain, it's a personal goal of the month competition between Iñaki and Neymar. All that and more on tonight's Football Hipsters podcast. All right. Hello and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast. It's that time again, time where we rattle through all things football across Europe and the world. My name is Chris, I'm your host, and tonight I am joined by three of our finest. Firstly, covering all things La Liga, it is Tom. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening.
Also joined by Drew, who's going to cover all things Bundesliga for us. Good evening, Drew.
Good evening, guys.
And finally, last but not least, also joined by John, who's covering all things Serie A as normal. Good evening, John.
Evening, Chris.
Right, so we're all here. We know why we're here. Plenty to get into. We're going to start, as we always do, with the Mighty 90. Okay, so the Mighty 90 section, this is our opportunity for our hipsters to go through their teams that they follow and give us a 90-second update just to keep us in touch with how they're getting on. We're going to start this week with Drew, and he's got an update on his hipster team, which is Feyenoord. So, Drew, I'm going to pop the 90 seconds on the clock, and your Mighty 90 begins now.
Okay, so it was the match that most people look forward to, and then Eredivisie was the Klassieker. So Feyenoord versus Ajax, the biggest rivalry in the country. I was at the De Hoop Stadium this time around. It finished 1-1. Sven van Beek opened the scoring on 38 minutes. David Klaassen, Dutch international, actually leveled in the 59th minute, and that's where it ended. Between the 52nd and the 64th minute, there was actually 7 bookings. So just laying weight to just how passionate those players are about that derby. It's one of the most, underrated fixtures for me personally. At the moment, Feyenoord sit third now. They lost 80 Den Haag the weekend before, so they haven't won in their last 2. Sitting third on 26 points. PSV Eindhoven, who are actually in excellent form, are 1 point ahead, sitting on 27. And Ajax still remain top of the table on 29 points. Apart from that, for the match itself, I don't know. The Feyenoord actually probably say actually outplayed Ajax for a fair amount. So they should feel a little bit hard done. Ajax is kind of tough at the back. Didn't perform well. Feyenoord kind of spurned their chances, the ones they did get, though. Also, Simon Gustafsson, who has been starting lately, didn't actually start. He came off the bench. And Michel Kramer was awful as usual again. So interesting to see where the goals are going to come from if it's not with Kout. And he scored it. He's still sitting on 10 goals.
And that is your time. Superb. Thank you very much, Drew. Much appreciated. So obviously we'll keep us in touch with Feyenoord. And I understand you've got a bit of a Dutch league update for us later on in the show. So we'll come back to you for that. Right then, moving things along. Who shall we go to next? Let's go to Austria next. Why not? Tom, I'm going to cue the clock. And your Mighty 90 begins now.
Okay, so very much like Drew, it was the Austrian derby this weekend. Austria Vienna taking on Red Bull Salzburg. The game ended 1-1. Red Bull Salzburg went 1-up through Paulo Miranda. A very good finish from a well-traded centre-back, the Brazilian man getting the goal. So it was equalised, unfortunately, in the 80th minute. We couldn't hold on to our 24th minute lead. Frijan Bischler, the substitute, came on and scored for Austria Vienna. It was a reasonably even game. Vienna had 10 shots, 3 on target. We had 14 shots, 3 on target. Not the most accurate of shooting displays, to be honest. Vienna got 57% possession and we had 43%. So a reasonably even derby, although I felt that we, obviously not biased in any way, felt that we should have won the game. This leaves Salzburg sitting in second place. We are currently 3 points away from Vienna in first. Rapid Vienna are 3 points behind us in third. It was surprising that Jonathan Soriano didn't actually get on the score sheet this week, and it's now been 2 games where none of our outfield players have actually scored a goal. Obviously, losing last week to Alta was a massive shot to the system, which didn't really help in the lead up to the derby match. Hopefully, the players such as Soriano and Berisha and Keita, especially our 20-year-old centre midfielder, can really get back in the goals for our next match. The form is worrying, but hopefully we can get back for our next match. And Austria Wien have got a tough run of fixtures actually coming up.
Time.
Oh no!
Oh,
No!
killed you. I think we got the gist. Gist. But no, good stuff. And that was well pronounced, that name as well. So yeah, sure you'd be keen to look out for him. Right, 2 down, 2 to go. John, you're up next to get us up to date with all things German and Mönchengladbach. And your Mighty 90 begins now.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're all expecting. You're all expecting to say it's the 7th game we've won, but the streak has finally come to an end. Schubert's magic has finally not worked. We drew out a game 0-0 against newly promoted Ingolstadt. It was a decent game, to be fair, and Ingolstadt really impressed me. It's the first time I've had a chance to see them see the full 90 minutes of them this season. They had a couple of decent chances themselves, hitting the crossbar. Forgan Hazard for Gladbach towards the end had a decent chance as well that maybe he should have done better with. But all in all, it was a game with both teams really defending well and some good goalkeeping displays. Sadly, Granit Xhaka was back to his old ways and getting a second yellow card in the 86th minute and getting sent off. He did a fantastic interview earlier in the week talking about how he wanted to lead by example, and that's why he was taking the penalties this season as he's now the captain. Sadly, I don't think that's the sort of example he really wants to be setting. But overall, we've done pretty well. In the last 21 days, we played 7 games and we got 4 wins and 3 draws. So it's pretty good results. 6th in the league now, 19 points, only 2 behind third place Wolfsburg. So doing really well. We've got a game to Hanover after the international break. That's away. And rumours going that Andre Schubert finally might actually be taking the job full time. There's a discussion going on during the international break, and hopefully he will sign an agreement and become the full-time manager.
And that is your time. Fantastic. Good stuff, as thorough as ever. Right, so there's just one left, and that's my time. So I shall pop the clock up for myself. So the Mighty 90 for me begins now. So this weekend, Lorient played host to lowly Troyes in Liga. 9,338 at the Stade de la Moustoir saw Lorient run out 4-1 winners. Really is on the stomp now, is Sylvain Ripoll's men. Benjamin Jeannot got the opening goal. He was back into the side this week, replacing the suspended Majid Waris. More on him later. He got them off to a flyer on 33 minutes. And then the game kind of went stale until the half-time. Breaking into the second half, Benjamin Mukanju. It was a day of Benjamins. Benjamin Mukanju got the second goal for Lorient on 58 minutes after a Jouf cross from the right-hand side, a free header at the back stick. Then a penalty, Lamine Gassana handball, and another Benjamin, Nive, scored to make it 2-1 before Mukanju assisted through ball for Ndong, who dinked the keeper to make it 3-1 on 78 minutes, and a late Mukanju penalty again, 92nd minute after Le Goff was tripped, and that ended up as a 4-1 win. A quick start on Benjamin Mukanju. He's now got 9 in his last 13 goals. 9 goals in his last 13 games for Lorient since signing from Reims in the summer. The results, Troyes remain bottom of the table. They're really struggling this year, I think it's fair to say, since their promotion, and Lorient now up to 7th. On a bit of a charge at the moment, really banging form. The only thing they've got to watch out for now is the dreaded injuries and indeed suspensions, which again we'll cover shortly. So that's Lorient, and this weekend, obviously after the international break, and we'll see how they get on. And that is my time. So that's the Mighty 90s all wrapped up for another week. As usual, if you've got any questions, if there's anything you want to ask us about our relevant teams or indeed the leagues they play in, just drop us a tweet and we will endeavour to answer that if we know the answers, of course. No assurances that we do. We'll do our best. Right, so that's wrapped the Mighty 90 up for another week. Let's now get into our main section, which is the world of football. Okay, so the world of football this week, we're going to take a trip to Germany this week. We're going to start in the Bundesliga.
Jetzt ist Acker! Nachschuss von Müller! Aus dem Stegreif das 1:0 für Deutschland.
Okay, so Bundesliga this week, we have Drew back on the pod. So Drew's going to look after all things Bundesliga. Drew, what have you got to tell us this week?
Okay, well, it was actually a bit of weekend of upsets, actually. So we can start with Cologne traveled to Leverkusen and actually came away 2-1 winners. Your favorite person, your favorite Slovenian, Dominic Moreau, netted a pair. He's actually the center back, so good for them. Chicharito continued his hot form. He now has, I think it's 4 goals and 8 or 9 appearances for Leverkusen domestically. But he can only find 1. So Leverkusen starting to slip. They've actually lost their last 2 matches on the spin. As John mentioned earlier, Ingolstadt. Sorry, I had to clear my throat a little bit. They went to Gladbach and actually came up with a 0-0 result. They've now only allowed 9 in their 12 matches so far this season. And it has them sitting 10th. Still can't score a goal, but if you can defend well, then you can get results. Mainz continued to rebound. They saw off VfL Wolfsburg 2-0. Actually, goals from Pablo de Blasis and Yunus Mali, which is his 7th this season. It should be mentioned that Wolfsburg actually had the better play, but Mainz were pretty ruthless on the counterattack, so that's all they really needed. And the Ruhr Derby, which was for me quite a fun match to watch. Dortmund actually ran out through 2 winners at home. Klaassen and Huntelaar had a brace for Schalke, but Seiji Kagawa, Matthias Ginter, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang all netted goals, secured to 3 points. Matthias Ginter actually set it back by trade. He's been playing really well at right back for Dortmund, actually. And it must be noted that, to be fair, he actually has, let me pull up the numbers real quick. I just wrote them down somewhere. He actually has 4 assists this season. He's actually in the top 5 in league in assists this season. For a center back playing right back, that's actually well done to you. Rest of the results, Hertha Berlin remain in the hunt for Europe after a 3-1 win in Hanover. Solomon Kalou bagged a hat-trick. Bayern continued their dominance after thrashing Stuttgart 4-0. Both Thomas Müller and Robert Lewandowski noted in that. Hoffenheim and Eintracht Frankfurt labored to a 0-0 draw. Darmstadt earned a point at home against Hamburg in a 1-1 draw. And Augsburg are still god-awful. They lost at home 2-1 to Werder Bremen. Top 5 in goals right now with Lewandowski and Aubameyang sitting on 14 apiece. Muller has 11. Royce, Kalou, and Mali all have 7. Douglas Costa still leads the league in assists with 7. Johns Raphael has 6. And Henrik Mkhitaryan, Kagawa, and have 5, and Ginter has 4. For European places, is Bayern Munich still at the top of the table on 34 points. Dortmund in second on 29. Wolfsburg in third with 21. Hertha Berlin and Schalke tied for 4th with 20. And Gladbach is in 6th with 19. Bottom of the table, Stuttgart are sitting on 10 points. Really, in sort of their form is very haphazard at the moment. They win, they lose, they win, they lose. So they don't have any consistency at the moment. Hoffenheim in 17th, shockingly enough. They have not won in 5. They're sitting in 17th with 8 points. Augsburg still haven't won in their last 6. 4 of those are losses, and they sit on 6 points after 12. Upcoming fixtures to look out for, actually. Ingolstadt versus Darmstadt. So it's the battle of the 2 recently promoted clubs. Could be interesting, actually, to keep an eye on that. Just, they'll know each other from the last couple of seasons down in the Bundesliga 2. And then it's actually Schalke Bayern as well. That could be entertaining. Schalke are at home, so you never know. Bayern might slip again with another point, and if Dortmund can get a result in their next fixture, then they'll only be about 2 or 3 points off the pace. So interesting to see what happens there.
Good stuff. Thank you, Drew. Just a couple of quick questions for you, as always. Talk to me about Stuttgart. They're obviously, as you say, got humped by Bayern Munich this weekend. There's no disgrace in that, as we all know. But they're a team that's really struggling. They struggled last season. They're struggling this season. What do you think's going wrong there?
I think it's issues at the back. They have allowed the most goals in the league, and if you allow that many goals, scoring 17 is actually a fair return from 12 matches. But when you allow 27, then you have problems. Ginczek isn't playing poorly. Didavi is playing well. I know John's mentioned Didavi on previous pods. Philip Kostic. Those players are playing well, but at the back they have some serious question marks. I think that's basically their Achilles heel. They're not gonna get sort of any sort of form going on if they can't defend well in the 3 matches get in a row. They do well one match, but the next match they just got awful. Again, no one can really blame them for getting destroyed by Bayern at home, no less. In Bavaria, but they need to improve the back, or it's going to be a tough season.
Yeah, absolutely. And another quick question before we move on as well, with regards to Leverkusen. They obviously Champions League commitments this season. I think it's fair to say their league form has suffered a little bit. They look aside to me that sometimes they click, sometimes they don't. What do you think is their priority this season? Progression in the Champions League, or are they going to try and fight their way back up? They're 8th at the moment, like you said.
I really don't know. They've lost their last 2. Before that, they're in some pretty decent form. But, that might come home to roost. You would expect them to win at home against Cologne. If they had those 3 points, they'd be tied with Hertha and Schalke for 4th on 20 points. If they won the match previous, they'd actually be in 3rd ahead of Wolfsburg. So they're not getting results in the matches that, they probably should. And I think that's the biggest issue. I do agree that, they haven't been really stuck in Champions League for a while in a way that they are this season. So I think that's actually not, that's kind of a big issue for them. Also, goals are a problem. Apart from Chicharito, they're not getting consistent goal scoring from any other person. So, everyone highlights Karim Bellarabi as the player to watch, or Hakan Calhanoglu, but even those guys aren't really scoring all that much. Bellarabi only has 2 in 12 appearances. Calhanoglu, who is a free kick specialist, only has 1. Also, creativity. Admir Mehmedi has the most assists for the club, and it's only 2. Everybody else is only sitting on 1. So they're lacking some creativity, despite the players that they have, and they're lacking a really good goal threat that's not Chicharito. So
yeah, it's one to watch. And one thing they have got is a lovely kit, but that's just a typical hipster thing to say. Excuse me. Just before we leave Germany, John, I just want to come to you quickly. You mentioned about Mönchengladbach's sort of search for, are they going to convince Schubert. He said Sherbert.
It's an easy mistake.
It is, isn't it? Are they? That you say that's sort of progressing nicely. Is that expected to be imminent, that announcement, or is there still a few things to few I's to dot and a few T's to cross?
Well, he's obviously hired by the club because he's been there for 2 years as the under-23 coach, and that's technically what he still is. And that's I suppose that's what his pay grade is at the moment. They are very happy. I think they're very happy to offer him the position. I would imagine most likely it will probably be sort of till end of season, and then maybe at the end of the season they reassess and then look at it then. He stated a number of times that he wasn't particularly interested in taking the manager's role, but with the results he's been having, it looks more and more likely. The players really want him to be the manager. Some credits also got to go to Lucien Favre for stepping away at the time that he did, and because it has actually really helped the club. But Gladbach aren't the sort of club to panic about things. If Schubert says he still doesn't want it, they'll just say, yeah, that's fine. They'll let him carry on until later on in the season so they can get their man. So I would say that you would get a decision one way or the other after the international break, and if he doesn't take it, then maybe they will get a permanent manager in place after the winter break.
Yeah, watch this space. I'm sure you'll have plenty of updates for us in the coming weeks, so stay tuned for that one. As always, thank you to Drew for your Bundesliga stuff, and obviously if there's anything that anybody wants to ask Drew about all things Bundesliga, then just drop him a tweet. Right, so with Germany done, let's take a trip to Spain and La Liga.
Di María centra el remate. ¡Golazo! ¡Golazo! De Cristiano Ronaldo.
Okay, so Tom, you're up. What's been happening in sunny Spain?
Okay, so busy weekend in La Liga, so I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. 30 goals across all the games, and I'll start it with a massive game down at the bottom between Las Palmas and Real Sociedad. It was a game where Real Sociedad really had to win, and unfortunately they couldn't do it. Las Palmas ran out 2-0 winners. Vieira Ramos scoring a great goal, and followed up by Araujo, the former Barcelona player, scoring another great goal. And Sociedad never really offered anything in the match, and that actually ended in Moyes losing his job, which was announced earlier today. Moving on to the next match, Celta Vigo, the team has been up there as one of the form sides this season, lost 5-1 at home to Valencia. A massive win. It could be the turn of fortunes for both teams this season. Paco Alcacer got 2 goals. And Danny Parejo got 2 goals and 2 assists, which I'm sure you hear a lot more about in the Team of the Week. And finally, it was rounded off by the German defender Mustafi. He got a fine header to finish that off with the 5th goal. Fernandez got the only goal for Celta Vigo, which was actually a goal with 3 consecutive headers, including the finish, which it was quite nice to level the scores at 1-1 back then, but couldn't carry on to win the game. Sevilla, surprising win against Real Madrid, 3-2 winners at home. Sergio Ramos opened the scoring with an amazing overhead kick from the the centre-back. Immobile scored, Ava Banega put them up, and then a rare goal from Llorente, but typically a headed goal, put them 3-1 up, and James Rodriguez got a great goal from the edge of the box in the 93rd minute, so only a consolation for them. Malaga, under more stress, lost against Betis at home. Ruben Castro continues his scoring form. The Betis keeper Adan made 5 saves, including an almost point-blank stop to his bottom left, which I definitely recommend you watch. Atletico Madrid left it late against Sporting Gijon. Antoine Griezmann getting a goal in the 93rd minute. Another game of stunning saves, actually. Gijon's Quella pulling off one of the best double saves I've ever seen, which unfortunately couldn't leave them out. And at the end of the game, Diego Simeone definitely outdid Mourinho's Champions League celebration against PSG, fist pumping all the way down the touchline. Barcelona ran out 3-0 winners against Villarreal. Villarreal, a team that actually have been touted for big things this season, but unfortunately couldn't do anything at the Nou Camp. Barca put in more of a traditional performance compared to their 2-0 win at Getafe last week. Neymar got a brace, including an excellent goal where he lofted over the player and finessed him into the bottom right-hand corner. Suarez scored a penalty to make it 3 for them. Bilbao continuing their fine form, got a 2-1 home win against Espanyol, rather. Inaki Williams, who we mentioned in the team of the week last week, scored also a goal which arguably is better than Neymar's. Another flick over even more defenders and then a volley into the top left-hand corner. Raul Garcia won it with a brilliant header in the final minutes, and Perez got the goal for Espanyol, which actually levelled it at 1-1 in the game with another volleyed finish. Rayo Vallecano continued their nice form, 2-1 winners at home against Granada. Guerra got a brace early on. They actually had a man sent off, but Granada could only get the 1 goal late on. And Eibar, also a team in form, 3-1 winners at home to Getafe. Levante drew 1-1 with Deportivo at home, so that's a good point for Levante, setting them on the ways. In terms of the table, Barcelona are now on top by 3 points clear, going into El Clasico, the big game after the international break. Atletico go third, a point behind second place Real Madrid, thanks to Griezmann's late winner, as I mentioned. Celta Vigo have dropped down to fourth, with Villarreal only 1 point behind them. And a short mention for Eibar, who, as I mentioned last week, was supposed to be relegated, are now 2 points off fourth. Down at the bottom, Levante and Granada still share the bottom with 7 points. And Las Palmas have now joined the 9 points club, with Malaga and Sociedad all sitting at the bottom just above Granada and Levante.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Tom, as usual. Thorough, to the point. Love it. 2 quick questions for you, if I may.
Cool.
Before anyone asks, you'll all be sat at home thinking, why have they not mentioned David Moyes? More on that later. So we'll come back to that. But I wanted to ask you about Celta. Defeated this weekend. Has the bubble burst?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I watched the game. And they were actually very impressive. They had 2 goals disallowed. One of them, the second one, would have put them 2-1 up at the time, and it should have counted as well, because what happened was the player went through. I can't remember who it was. It might have been Nolito, actually. He was fouled. The ball ran on, and Orellana ran onto it and then slotted it in the bottom right-hand corner. But as he took the shot, the ref blew his whistle and pulled it back for the free kick. So 3 seconds more of advantage, and it would have been 2-1 to Celta. I think it's a simple case of Valencia really went at everything they had. They really smashed them, and it was a bit of a shock to the system. But I don't think that they're going to be out of it. They certainly are playing a lot better football than some of the other teams in La Liga, and I think they can hit that high end of the top 4. It's just a little bit iffy now whether my prediction of them getting Europa League. But I do believe they got the quality throughout the side to do it. But mostly it'll be about keeping Nolito in January.
Yeah, absolutely. We shall watch and see what happens there. A lot of teams will be looking for strikers, of course, in January. Just another quick one. Sergio Ramos, you mentioned he scored the goal, former Sevilla player. Any news on his injury? For those that didn't see, he went up sort of for a side-on bicycle kick and landed on the exact shoulder that has been giving him problems all season. He played on for a short period of time, and then I think I'm right in saying he came off. What's the latest, if anything, on him?
As far as I'm aware at the moment, it's been said that he's definitely out of the England game, the England friendly.
I'm sure he'll be gutted.
Yeah, obviously. But I'm not too sure the actual extent of the injury. It shouldn't do too much damage to Real Madrid, because Varane has been on great form of recent weeks, and they have Pepe who can come in, and Nacho as well can play. But yeah, he'll be out for a couple of weeks. But It's a bit awkward when you score an absolutely fabulous bicycle kick and then go down and injure yourself at the same time. But no, I think that Real will be fine without him. But still, I'm sure he's dying to miss that England game.
Yes, as I'm sure many players across the world will be
Even
desperate
England
to,
players.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, 100%. Touching on those, the Neymar and Iñaki Williams goals, well, if you haven't seen them, I know we always say this, but definitely look them both up. We had a debate pre-pod and we can't decide which one's better, so certainly look those up. Okay, thank you, Tom, and as always, any questions for Tom La Liga wise, drop him a tweet. Thank you as always. Right, let's move it on then to all things English with the Premier League.
Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli, Aguero! I swear you'll never see anything like this ever again.
Okay, in Jake's absence this week, I'm going to cover the Premier League. We're going to start where we seem to start with this man every week, but Jamie Vardy, once again, making the headlines this week. He scored for his 9th consecutive game in the Premier League with a penalty. Now, he's just one off the record now of Ruud van Nistelrooy. He's got a bit to go before he's in that class, I would suspect. But hey, you can't knock the guy. He just keeps on scoring. He got the winning goal, as it turned out, in a 2-1 win against Watford, which also saw a goal for N'Golo Kante, who joined in the summer. As far as the top of the table goes, Manchester City and Arsenal both remain joint top of the table. Arsenal in the North London derby, which will be sort of well publicised across Europe this weekend. Harry Kane scoring for Spurs to put them one up against pretty out of sorts Arsenal, it has to be said, whether the effects of Bayern Munich in midweek maybe had an issue there, but they came back and equalised through a very unlikely source, Kieran Gibbs. With yet another Mesut Ozil assist. He just keeps getting better and better. So that game ended 1-1. Manchester City, rather disappointingly, drawing 0-0 away at Aston Villa in Remy Gard's first game. I think it's fair to say Villa looked much improved, if not particularly offensive. They were very much camped in their own half, and I think it's fair to say got away with quite a few close shaves in that game. But nonetheless, they'll take a point. Leicester up to third with their victory over Watford, should say, and Manchester United hot on their heels in fourth. They got a 2-0 rather unconvincing victory against West Brom. Jesse Lingard scoring his first goal for Manchester United in that game. As far as down the bottom, Aston Villa, we mentioned they remain bottom. Sunderland only a point above them. They lost again. They lost to a penalty from Tadic at Southampton. They were at home. Really clumsy challenge from Jan and Villa just at the time where they seemed to be getting themselves into a position where they could have won the game, and they threw it all away in the 69th minute. So they remain in trouble. AFC Bournemouth, they also remain in trouble. And Jose Perez goal got the points for Newcastle in a game that I think it's fair to say Bournemouth absolutely dominated. But shots on target didn't really come in, and a certain goalkeeper for Newcastle had a blinder. More on him later on. So that pushes Newcastle one place above the relegation zone into 17th. Elsewhere, Stoke beat Chelsea. More bad luck for Mourinho, who is banned from the stadium. Probably will have thoughts to feel hard done by this week. Seemed to be an unlucky shout for Loic Remy, who, after Arnautovic had scored for Stoke, Remy in the last couple of minutes going through on goal, being sort of tripped by Butland, but stayed on his feet and then missed the chance, and no penalty was awarded. So that leaves Chelsea still floundering in 16th place. Unthinkable, really. Lost 4 of the last 5 games. So who knows what might happen by the time we next record. It'll be interesting to see. The only other result that I've got noticeable to pick out really was Crystal Palace's win away at Anfield. Jurgen Klopp's first defeat as Liverpool manager. Palace getting goals from Balassi, equalised by Coutinho. A late-headed winner from Scott Dan, who's a Liverpool fan by trade, takes the points, and Palace back up to 8th. Other results, West Ham drew with Everton, and in fact that was the only other result across the weekend. So there you go, that covers all the games. We've mentioned the table. Just to quickly sort of cover the top scorers, Jamie Vardy is top of the charts, closely followed by Ighalo from Watford, Lukaku of Everton, and Mahrez also of Leicester. And then the currently injured Sergio Aguero joins Olivier Giroud and Harry Kane and Graziano Pelle not far behind those as well. So that's pretty much covers things on the Premier League. Tom, I'm going to come to you because you just wanted to mention something quickly about Mesut Ozil.
That was true.
Oh, is it Drew? Sorry, Drew. My apologies.
How dare you? No, so he has 10 assists domestically now, leading Europe. Do you think? Would you be surprised if he didn't break Thierry's single season record for assists?
I think I would be. Yeah, I mean, he's got a long season ahead of him. He really seems to be finding his feet. I mean, it seems silly to say it because I think he's found his feet from the minute he got here. But he looks like a player who's happy with his game. I think he's finding players in the right positions. The cross he put in for Gibbs was just absolutely pinpoint on Sunday. And he looks like a player that can just continue to go from strength to strength. I think it's difficult to sort of predict the future, as is always the case. But when even Thierry Henry is saying, I think he'll break my record, I think it's fairly likely that he will. So we shall see.
Right.
John, I know you have a question, and then Tom, you have one as well. So John, what was your question?
Yeah, no, it was less of a question. It was Riyad Mahrez is normally the penalty taker for Leicester, isn't he? Yeah, I believe he gave up taking the penalty so Jamie Vardy could take it and keep his goal scoring run on. I just thought it was just a nice thing to point out of anyone who maybe hadn't seen the game or seen the coverage. Just shows the team spirit and how much they're backing him as a player and want him to do well.
Absolutely, yeah, and how well Claudio Ranieri's doing. Written off at the start of the season. Is all a big joke, and not by me, I should stress. But many of the top so-called pundits were writing him off this pre-season, saying, "Oh, they're going to do nothing." And now I think people are really looking at them and thinking, "Well, can they make maybe not the top four, but move the top six?" And I think what will be the biggest test for Leicester and Mahrez and Vardy and co is going to be over the next couple of weeks. They've got the international break, and then they face games. They've got to go. They've got Manchester United at home. They've got Chelsea coming up, although make of that what you will. They also face Liverpool, Manchester City over the Christmas period. So the next month or so, we'll get a really good gauge as to where Leicester are going to be. But that's a good spot. So well brought up. Tom, final question from you.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp's comments about the Liverpool fans leaving early, and that in fact he felt alone in the stadium. Do you think that's a problem throughout the Premier League and throughout England?
I thought it was really interesting comments that he brought up, simply because he's the first person to really bring it up, and I think fair play. I think Klopp is clearly a manager who he manages with. He's all passion, he's all heart, and you could tell that it bothered him. And I think in a weird way, I think Liverpool fans will respond to that, and I think that they will probably end up staying in the ground, and just because they're so invested in him, and his enthusiasm it really does sort of group together people, and I think he made an excellent point, and it is really frustrating when you see fans leaving early, and I personally, from my own experience, I've never bought into this idea that you can, quote, beat the traffic, particularly if you support a North London club as I do. You can't escape traffic no matter where you are in London, and the same can be said of places like Liverpool. I think it's just madness, and like he said that he used the word, I felt sad. It must be really disheartening when you're a manager and you're trying to galvanise your team and half your stadium have gone. And surely the players are affected by that as well. So it will be interesting to see if his comments go down the right way or the wrong way, because we all know Liverpool fans are quite outspoken when it comes to their side. So that'll be interesting to see. Just before we leave the Premier League, as I said, we got the international break. Just a couple of fixtures to look out for on the return of the league, which is on the 21st. West Brom play host to Arsenal, and Manchester City are playing Liverpool, probably the standout fixture of the weekend. So that's the top two. We mentioned Leicester, they're away at Newcastle. Chelsea, who knows who's going to be managing, but they're at home to Norwich, and Remy Gard's Aston Villa go to Everton. So that pretty much draws a line under the Premier League. Let's see what is happening in Italy as we go to Serie A. Okay, John, your time. What's been happening in Italy this week?
Well, it's been the weekend of derbies all across Europe, so the best place to start will be in Rome in the Derby della Capitale. Roma versus Lazio. Roma run out 2-0 winners. It was quite a strange game in the fact that there were so many Romans not playing. Florenzi and De Rossi out through injury, Maicon also out. Big influence of the team, and Pjanic was also suspended along with Totti. But a goal from Edin Dzeko for a penalty, which was Well, the foul was just outside the box, wrongly given, but he got the penalty and he finished with aplomb. And the second goal from Gervinho on a wonderful counter-attack. Absolutely brilliant ball from Raja Nainggolan. But it sounds very one-sided, but it wasn't. Felipe Anderson hit the bar, he hit the post. There was just amazing chances for both teams, but in the end, Roma took their chances when it was given to them. I think that's 6 in 7 now for Gervinho, so really, really doing well this season. Down close to the bottom of the table, Verona still winless. They lost 2-0 at home to Bologna. That's Andrea Mandolini is on the verge of being sacked at Verona at the moment, unsurprisingly. He is out. He is without Luca Toni, the club's top goal scorer last season. Also Romelu Marquez and Alberto Zazzi still injured. But Roberto Donadoni, second game for Bologna. That's 2 wins now, 5 goals, 5 goals, 2 clean sheets. So he's started very well. Other 2 games to pick out really to highlight. Samp at home, finally beaten by Fiorentina 2-0. Ilicic penalty and Kalinic as well. Just the 2 of them playing really good interplay between them all game. Finally brings down Samp's undefeated home record. Inter going away to Torino, winning 1-0. Jeffrey Kondogbia getting his first goal. That's Inter's 7th 1-0 win this season. Not the most exciting team to watch going forwards, but definitely great at the back. Other results to pick out: Palermo get a 1-0 win over Chievo. Gilardino scoring the goal which could keep Beppe Iachini in a job at Palermo at the moment. They really needed that. Also wins for Juve at Empoli. Juve winning their first, for the first time this season, winning 2 games back-to-back in the league, unbelievably. Napoli with a win over Udinese. No prizes for guessing who scored there. Gonzalo Higuain again. And the first ever top-flight Emilia-Romagna derby between Sassuolo and Carpi. Sassuolo running out 1-0 winners. Castore, who was the previous Carpi manager, has been rehired, although he wasn't off the books as such, but he was fired from his position. And Sanino has been fired. So the first manager they had this season has come back after being sacked. I know, very strange, but that's Italy. Frosinone and Genoa honours even in a 2-2. It's notable this game for the fact that Blanchard scored a bicycle kick whilst laying on his back in the box. It's quite an impressive goal, so that's definitely one worth looking up. And also, last game of the weekend, Milan's win streak was finally ended in the Lombardy derby against Atalanta 0-0. But another clean sheet for the 16-year-old goalkeeper Gigi Donnarumma. So the league as it stands at the moment, Fiorentina are still top on 27 points, same as Inter Milan, just with a slightly better goal difference. Roma on 26, Napoli on 25, Sassuolo on 22, Milan on 20. Juve now up to 7th on 18 points. Carpi are bottom currently with 6 points, despite the fact that Verona haven't got a win. They are just above them, only on goal difference. Frosinone on 11, Bologna and Udinese on 12. Bologna now finally getting themselves out of the relegation zone. I did also have some breaking news that I've just noticed tonight, just as we were recording. There are talks that Sampdoria have agreed a deal in principle for Vincenzo Montella to replace Walter Zenga. People may remember Montella was the Fiorentina manager last season. He's still attached to Fiorentina in some capacity, and there is a €4 million release clause. So Samp will have to pay that if they do want him to come in as manager. Luigi Del Neri and Eugenio Carini are the other options if they can't get Montella.
There you go. So who's to say we're not on top of things? We're on top of things as they happen. Breaking news. Love it. Superb. That'll be interesting to watch that as well. It'll be very interesting to see how, if that does indeed go through. More next week, I'm sure. One quick question for me, John. I think Tom's got one for you as well. My question really is on Juventus. There, as you say, the 3-1 win this weekend at Empoli. They came from a goal behind, always a good sign for a team that's on the up. How are they looking? Do they look like a team that's starting to click? And if they are, is that down to a certain Mr. P. Pogba?
They're certainly looking better now. They were helped that Sami Khedira was back in the team. The midfield has been a problem all season. Pogba is, when he's been on form, he's been unstoppable. The problem is he's been doing a lot of it on his own this season. He really needs Marchisio and Sami Khedira there to help him out. And when they are there, they do look much better. There was also a very strange stat. Mandzukic scored in that game, and whenever Mandzukic scores, Juve win. which is a very odd stat. Although, to be fair, he has only scored 4 goals for them, so he hasn't been outstanding. But they certainly seem to be getting their rhythm better. Cuadrado and Dybala are starting to have more of an effect on the team. Lichtsteiner coming back as well, surprisingly coming back so quickly after the heart surgery. Scored a wonderful goal, link-up play with Pogba. Looked like watching Pirlo and Lichtsteiner playing not so long ago, the way they linked up. That's definitely helped the team as well. So I would never write off Juve because that team has got so much quality in it and they've won so many things and they know how to do it. So it's a long season to go, but we'll see where they end up.
And rumours this week about a certain Mr. Pirlo returning. We shall keep an eye on that one. Tom, your question for John.
Yeah, I'm probably as well known by a few of you that I'm a bit partial to Fiorentina at the top of the league at the moment, but I have to be honest, they don't have the best team in terms of quality compared to a lot of the other Spanish in my head, Italian teams in the league. I mean, is there a reason why they're doing so well at the top?
Well, I mean, the players that they've had there have been there quite a while now, and they've just got a system and a style of play that they've stuck with even after Montella left. The 3 at the back, the wing backs, the 2 sitting midfielders who can clean anything up but can also play. Players like Borja Valero and people like that, and up front as well, doing really, really well. Kalinic is a player who didn't do great in the Premier League, but you go to another division and all of a sudden you start scoring goals. Ilicic as well is a big player for them. So, I think it's more down to the way and the style of play, less than the players. They achieve more as a whole together. You look at Juve and it's a star-studded team, and they don't exactly have a system. They can't quite get it right yet, which is maybe why they're struggling. So less is sometimes more, as I say.
Cool. Good shout, yeah, and they're worth watching as well. I watched them last night at Samp, and when they click, the ball retention is absolutely superb. They really did knock it around.
They recycle the ball very quickly, and anytime Samp are at home, just watch, because even if Samp lose, there's always loads of goals.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, and a certain Fiorentina player did make our team of the week. So more on that later. Okay, well, thank you as always, John. Good stuff. Just the one league to go before we do a whistle stop tour of the rest of the world quickly. And the league remaining is, of course, Liga.
Corner! Oh, quel geste! Quel geste! L'égalisation de Zlatan Ibrahimovic! 23e minute, le 8e but cette saison du géant suédois. Et celui-là, c'est vraiment un but. Christophe à la Zlatan, l'extérieur du pied. Exceptionnel geste et égalisation du Paris Saint-Germain.
Okay, so Ligue 1 this week. It's been a week for goals, I think it's fair to say. PSG, they won again. There's a surprise. They beat Toulouse by 5-0 at home on the Saturday evening, or Saturday afternoon as it was. Angel Di Maria was banging form in that game. He scored a direct free kick. Also 2 goals for Zlatan in that game, as well as Lucas Moura and Ezekiel Lavezzi. So that's tying up the points. No surprise that PSG have won their last 5 games straight. So I think it's fair to say that they're probably going to win the league. 10 points clear now of second place Lyon, who played probably the biggest game of the weekend. One of the biggest derbies. John mentioned it's been a weekend of derbies. The Lyon versus St Etienne, or the Derby de Run, as it's known in France, and a certain Alexandre Lacazette emerged from hibernation. It's been quiet all season, pretty much out of form. He hit form today, hat-trick for him, securing the win for his beloved Lyon, or not beloved, whichever you believe. But yes, Lyon up to second place, starting to pick up some momentum. That's 4 wins out of their last 5. And certainly finding their form in the league, at least, certainly not in the Champions League. This weekend also saw a Montpellier back to winning ways again. They beat Nantes by 2-1. They're slowly picking up now. 2 wins in their last 5 games. Boy, did they need it. So they've been struggling all season, but they're now up to 17th. So slowly but surely seeing some signs of improvement. But improvement is certainly not something you can mention of Marseille. They lost at home again. They lost to Nice, who were back to winning ways. Nice having sort of been Europe's great entertainers. They had been on the back of 2 defeats and a draw in the last 3 games, but they're back to winning ways away at Marseille. And that puts Nice back up to 6, back into the top 6. As for Marseille, to be honest, it's one plan. It's Michy Batshuayi, and if that plan doesn't work, there isn't really a plan B. So they really are struggling, and rumours already that Michel might be under pressure, which is absolutely bizarre, seeing as how short space of time he's been in there. We should also mention Rams are losing to the informed side, Gazalek Ajaccio. 3 straight wins now for the tiny team who were promoted from Ligue 2 last season. Many tipped to be written off. They said they were a dead dodo. Well, 3 wins on the spin. They're out of the relegation zone. They now sit 18th. And they're just playing with freedom, expression, and just loving their football at the moment. Goals from Boutaib and Zua getting the win in that one, and away from home as well. I mean, that's a terrific result. Rams, not an easy place to win. There, as I say, they're up to 18th, and can they stay up now? We shall see. And we'll also briefly just touch on Cannes. They're back to winning ways as well. They're back up to 3rd, so they got a victory. Probably, I wouldn't say it was expected, but Guingamp away from home, not particularly great. Cannes running up 2-1 winners. Bordeaux also coming from behind, 3-1 win on Sunday evening against resurgent Monaco. Wouldn't say that's a surprise result, but both teams probably exchanging form on that one. And Lille continuing to struggle. They're down in 16th place. They drew 1-1 at home to Bastia, although having had Sofiane Boufal sent off late on to get an 87th minute equaliser from Djibril Sidibe, they'll be quite thankful of that result. As far as the table goes, I should also mention, in my Mighty 90, you mentioned Majid Waris. That hilarious stroke horror tackle on Jimmy Brion last week, that's netted him a 6-game suspension. So banned for 6 games. Again, if you haven't seen that footage, just do look it up. It's quite funny. As far as the table goes, PSG, as we said, top, 13 games played, 11-1, drawn 2, yet to taste defeat there. 10 points clear on 35 points, ahead of Lyon in 2nd, Cannes in 3rd. Angers still rattling around in the top 4. And St Etienne, Nice, Lorient and Rennes make up the top 8. As far as the bottom, Troyes, they look doomed, to be honest. 5 straight defeats, 4 points all season. They're bottom. Toulouse, really struggling now, 9 points all season. They've only won once. They're in 19th. Gazalec, as we mentioned, up to 18th. Montpellier, Lille, Bastia and Ram above them. Marseille sitting in 13th. Bordeaux in 11th. So that's pretty much where we are in France. Tom, I believe you had a question.
Yeah, it's on Cannes. They've won 8, drawn none, and lost 5. Is that like the manager's style? Is he a bit all or nothing? And do you think that they could take a bit from actually learning when to sit just for the 1 point?
Probably, yeah. I think both of those are fair points. They rely on their home form pretty heavily, which is not a massive surprise for a small club, but victories over Guingamp, over St Etienne, over Gazalec Ajaccio, over Montpellier and Toulouse, that's kind of where they're picking up their points. They're not terrible away from home, but it does generally tend to be, like you say, it's win or nothing. They got humped away, playing it home to Lyon, but other than that, their home form is the key. Away from home, it's a little bit more patchy. What I probably would say with Cannes, like you say, is they kind of need to drive out results occasionally. They go looking for results and end up coming away with nothing. I know they lost, Danny follows Cannes intently, and they lost away at Lorient in the game they really shouldn't have lost, in truth. But again, pushing forward too many. They got caught on the break twice and lost 2-0. But they're an impressive side. They're a fairly young side. They've got some old heads in there to match with the youth. But I think realistically, they're 3rd at the moment. Can they keep up this pace? Unlikely. But hey, if they finish in the top, say the top 8, I think they'll see that as a fairly successful season. But you're absolutely right. They need to learn a little bit more about game management, I think, in my humble opinion. That's pretty much it for France, unless any of the guys have got anything they want to ask. As far...
Yeah, I actually have one. If you
Go on, Drew. Yeah, fire away.
So the Stade Pierre Mauroy, Lille's new ground, 3 years old or whatever. A lot of people feel like when a club completes a new ground and they move it, and it's actually a brilliant stadium, that's supposed to usher in some sort of new era for them. Usually they get more money, they'll have more sponsorship behind it and whatnot. But do you think that they're sort of screwing the pooch when it comes to that? They're sitting 16th, not playing very well. They rely too much on Sofiane Boufal. Where do you think they can go from here?
Oh, Lille, they are an enigma. I mean, let's not forget this is a side that have got some history. You know, they're quite a well-regarded team throughout Europe, and they're a team that's generally thought of as quite a high-level performing team in Liga. I mean, they won the league back in 2010-11 season, so you know they're not a team that goes without success for too long. But as you say, new stadium, 50,000. I wouldn't go. They're just not a very exciting side, is the truth. They really struggle to score goals. They have done for a number of years. It is a young side. That's one thing I would say. I mean, as you said, like you mentioned, Buffal there, Girassi, Nangis, Guillaume, Benzia. They're sort of the forward options. Fry as well. They're all 22 or under. And they just don't look like a side that is ever going to be able to score a high amount of goals to fire them into the top division. And if you look at the last few results, I mean, 1-1 this weekend, 0-0 the week before, beat Troyes 2-1. But to be honest, I think four of us could probably beat Troyes. You know, they're just, if you look at all their games, it's very rare that they get more than one goal. And in Europe's top leagues nowadays, you kind of need to score more than once, and particularly when your defence isn't all that good either. So it's probably, I think it's safe to say that they are not performing to where they should be. 16th is way below par, but until they address the goal scoring department, Buffal can create all he likes. If nobody's there to take the chances, they're not going to go anywhere. So there you go. That's pretty much ties up everything on Ligue 1. As far as fixtures go after the international break, just to pick out a couple. Nice play Lyon on the Friday of the 20th. That'll be worth a watch. My beloved Lorient entertained PSG. I'm a little bit concerned about how that one might go, but you never know. And the only other one to pick out, Caen against Angers, which might be quite fun. Should probably give a mention to St Etienne against Marseille as well, because that will probably be a tasty little fixture. So there we go. That's Ligue 1, and that wraps up our league. So there's only one other brief thing to scoot through, which is the best of the rest.
E aí o time do São Paulo, a jogada feita, o chute pro gol! Gol! Pato! Gol do São Paulo!
Okay, so the best of the rest is where we just take a whistle-stop tour across the best of what's going on either in Europe or around the world. Now, very briefly, we had a listener question, and that came in from... I've lost who asked it now. Who was it who asked? Here we go. From Nova Rock. He just wanted to know how the Argentine League ended. Danny touched on this last week. Boca Juniors did indeed win the title. There's one game left to play, which is ironically tonight, but it has no bearings on the league standings. So just to let you know, Boca Juniors won the title, 64 points from their 30 games. San Lorenzo finishing second. And then you've got Rosario Central, Racing Club, Independiente and Belgrano in the top 6. And as far as down the bottom end, Crucella del Norte finishing bottom. Comfortably bottom, I think it's fair to say. Atletico Rafael and a couple of big names down there. Arsenal de Sarandi, Vélez Sarsfield, and Godoy Cruz, all in the bottom end of the table. So if you want more information on the Argentine Premier Division, have a look on Soccerway. Good website for various bits and bobs there. But Boca Juniors, title winners. And that league gets underway again, I think I'm right in saying, in February or March. I think it might be March. So there you go. That wraps up that one. Now, let's see what's going on. John, do you want to bring us up to date on what's happened this weekend in the Swiss League?
Yeah, sure. The Swiss Super League, or the Raiffeisen League, which I think is the correct way to say it. I've probably murdered that. The big game of the weekend was Basel at home to Grasshoppers, the two top teams in the league. Basel actually losing 3-2 in the end. It's the first defeat Basel have had since April, but they are still 10 points clear of Grasshoppers, who are in second place. Grasshoppers on 27 points, Basel well in front on 37, just 5 games to go. So the league all but rounded up there. Interestingly, the last team to win the Swiss Super League since Basel have been winning it pretty much non-stop is FC Zurich, who are managed by Sami Huppier, who I'm sure some Premier League fans will remember, the centre-back for Liverpool, and brief manager of Leverkusen as well, if I remember correctly. Is that right? Yeah,
Yes,
he was. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's not doing such a good job at FC Zurich. They are currently bottom on 11 points. So yeah, it's a pretty much at the moment. It's a very much one-team league. Basel or the Bayern Munich, if you like, of the Swiss Super League. But a very good, exciting game anyway. It was definitely had there, and a surprise result.
We shall name them Basel Munich from now on. That's the way
Yes.
forward. Good stuff. Tom, what's been going on in Belgium?
Yeah, so just a bit of a round about how the Belgian looks at the moment. It's a bit of an odd league this season. KV Oostende sit in first place on 31 points. They've only lost 2 matches all season. They've beaten Anderlecht 3-1 at home. They beat Standard Liège 2-1 away. They drew 2-2 at Ghent, and they won at home 3-2 to Genk. So they're certainly not afraid of the bigger sides in Belgium. More rationally, Ghent are sitting in second on 30 points of Anderlecht on 29. Club Brugge are fourth with 28 points. Other well-known teams in the league, Genk and Stade Liège, are struggling and sitting in 9th and 10th respectively. Westerlo currently occupy the only relegation spot on 12 points, but are only separated by 1 goal with the team above them in 15th place, OH Leuven. Games of note at the weekend, or game of note rather, Stade Liège beat bitter rivals Anderlecht 1-0 on Sunday, a game which you may remember from last season where Stephen Defour, who was an ex-Stade Liège player, moved to Anderlecht, and I believe it was Stade Liège fans held up a banner of his head being held by an executioner, which was lovely. But yeah, so they got one over Anderlecht in that result, and that's pretty much how the Belgian league looks at the moment.
Good stuff. Thank you very much for that. And Drew, you want to give us a quick update on what's going on in the Netherlands, Holland?
Sure, yeah, just real fast, as I mentioned before, Feyenoord and Ajax drew 1-1 in Der Klassieker. PSV Eindhoven won 3-1 at home against FC Utrecht. Other winners, Heerenveen went to 20 and won 4-1. Excelsior won 3-2 at Willem II. NEC Nijmegen won 2-0 at home against the Graafschap. And AZ Alkmaar beat Vitesse Arnhem 2-0 on the road. Cambuur and Groningen drew 2-2. PSV Zwolle and Heracles drew 1-1. And Roda JC and Eddie Den Haag drew 1-1. Just around the table, Ajax, as I said before, on top with 29 points, and Eindhoven in second with 27. Feyenoord sitting third with 26. Heracles and Melo fourth with 25. Vitesse Arnhem and NEC Nijmegen on 20 points, tied for fifth. PSV Zwolle at seventh with 18. Willem II and Cambuur at 16th and 17th on 7 points, and De Graafschap are very, very poor, sitting 18th on 2 points. They've actually lost 10 of the 12 matches this season, so it's just looking like it's a drop for them, period. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting as well that tonight is information leaking that Adam Mayer might be leaving PSV to join AC Milan. That's one to keep an eye on in January, perhaps.
It's only a matter of time.
Money. Mm-hmm. We shall see. Okay, that wraps that up. I just want to touch briefly this week on the MLS. I'm your designated go-to guy on MLS, I think, staying up at ridiculous hours of the night to watch the games. But boy, was it worth it last night. To give you an idea of what's happened, these were the second legs of the playoffs to determine who was going to shoot into the semi-finals. The first one of the evening saw the New York Red Bulls. They beat the DC United, for 2-0 on aggregate. A very late goal coming in from Bradley Wright Phillips, doing the damage. They were 1-0 up, of course, from the first leg and secured the win. It was a fairly tame game, really. DC United didn't come out the blocks at all and didn't really put New York under much pressure. So that game ended there, so New York Red Bulls went through. Second game of the evening saw the Columbus Crew win after extra time against Montreal Impact. Didier Drogba's Montreal Impact 2-1 from the first leg. Montreal led, but Kai Kamara got Columbus off to a flying start with a header on 4 minutes. Dili Duka equalised for Montreal Impact before Aaron Finley and Kai Kamara himself got the winner in additional time, in extra time, I should say. I've gone all American there. And they ran out 3-1 winners on the night and on aggregate 4-3. The real game, which I definitely want to talk about, was Seattle Sounders and Dallas. 2-1 to Seattle from the first leg. This game was pretty much for 84 minutes was all about Dallas trying and failing to break down the Sounders, who clearly come to try and grind out the 0-0 or scrape a 1-0 defeat and sort of get out with the away goal. To go through on the away goal rule, but that didn't happen. Dallas got the goal after finally pushing on the 84th minute. Substitute Akindele scoring with his very first touch with a back post header from a lovely cross. And it seems like Dallas were going through. Q 91st minute, stoppage time. Chad Marshall pops up with the Seattle Sounders back post header. Pretty poor marking from the corner, it has to be said. And the whole I've never heard a stadium go so quiet. It was absolutely dead in Texas. But they needn't worry, because another substitute, Walker Zimmerman. Now that really is an American name if ever I've heard one. He popped up in the 94th minute to head the goal to make it 2-1. Absolutely incredible scenes. It really was. So just to clarify, that's 3 goals in the last 8 minutes plus or 6 minutes plus stoppage time. Absolutely incredible finish to that game. Really, really was. Watching it live was breathtaking. Dallas eventually won on penalties, and that man Zimmerman scoring the all-important decisive penalty. They go through, and his deadpan reaction to scoring the penalty is worth looking up as well. And the final game, not a lot to report here, but the Vancouver Whitecaps succumbing at home to Portland Timbers. Goals from Addy and a late one from Chara sending the Timbers through. And all of that means that Dallas will play Portland in the Western semi-finals, and Columbus Crew entertain the New York Red Bulls in the Eastern semi. And of course, the 2 winners of those will play off for the MLS League Trophy at the end of those games. So we'll keep you posted on there. And very briefly, just looking at the form guide, Dallas and the Dallas Portland Timbers game. Overall, it's been fairly well split. Dallas have won a couple of they won 4-1 in the last meeting at home to Timbers, but they lost 3-1 away. So that'll be very interesting to see how that goes. And as far as Columbus Crew go, they lost to the New York Red Bulls 2-1 away, but they beat them 2-1 at home. They also lost 2-1 at home and then beat New York Red Bulls 3-1 away previously. So that's a real pick-em on that one. Very, very hard to tell. But we will keep you updated with how that goes over the coming weeks. So that's the MLS. Right, that pretty much covers all of football across the world from this week. So we'll move on to our next segment, and that is the Hipster's Choice. Okay, so the Hipster's Choice, I'm sure you'll all be aware by now, but this is where we pick out a player from around the world that we particularly like. There's nothing else to it. He might be young, he might be old, he might be trendy, he might not be. This week, we're going to go with Napoli's Lorenzo Insigne. Now, I'm sure that'll be a name that's fairly familiar to most people who are interested in football, but let's just give you a bit of a background. So he was born on June 4th, 1991, making him 24 years of age, born in Naples in Italy. Obviously, he's Italian. He's only 5'4", bless him, which actually makes him 2 inches shorter than me. And trust me, I'm short. Apparently weighs roughly 130 pounds, and he wears a number 24 shirt for Napoli. He is a client of Nike currently, as far as his boot deal goes. He plays either as a wide man or an attacking midfielder. Couple of interesting things for you. Napoli's featherweight fantasista is his kind of nickname. He's capable of playing on either flank or through the centre, but he's usually deployed as a winger, a left winger I should say. He's known in particular for his creativity, his speed and technical ability, as well as his accuracy from free kicks. He was raised in, John, I apologise, Fratamaggiore. I believe that's how you pronounce that. Could be completely wrong, but we'll go with that. Sounds a little bit like a yoghurt. But apparently it's a town on the outskirts of Naples. And he was chased from quite a young age. He was denied a high-profile youth career because he was so short. And in fact, famously, he was declined by Inter Milan's youth academy for that very same reason. But it was Inter's loss and Napoli's gain. They signed him for a nominal fee. He was called up for the Napoli first team while under the managership of Walter Mazzari, and he made his Serie A debut on January the 24th, 2010, just a day before my birthday. as far as his career has gone since, he's known a little bit of a bad boy. He's got a bit of a reputation for having a sulk. Indeed, in 2014, he was frustrated by his lack of opportunities behind Dries Mertens, and he started to show a little bit of that petulance during the Champions League playoff game against Bilbao. He was whistled off by the Napoli supporters, certainly a supporter group that you don't really want to annoy, and he responded by gesturing back at the stands, throwing his shirt, and some fans were very, very angry at this development, shall we say, and they certainly had a few words for him. And apparently his wife actually took to Instagram saying, "You don't deserve him at Napoli." It's always good when footballers' wives get involved in incidents of footballers. It never ends well. He had a bit of bad news when he ruptured his right ACL in November, and he was sidelined for 5 months. But he returned in April 2015, making 28 appearances in the 14-15 season, scoring 2 goals. And then currently, back in the Napoli side this season, he scored 6 goals and 3 assists in 12 appearances. He also made his 100th Serie A appearance, marking it with his 3rd goal of the season in a 2-1 win over defending champions Juventus. And an interesting stat for you, he's played 809 minutes, managing 4.3 shots per game, and has an accuracy of 80.9% as far as his passes go, which is pretty decent. And just finally, his Italy under-21 record, he's a member of the Italian under-21 squad. He made 15 appearances, scoring 7 goals. With the Italian national side, he's been capped by the senior side 6 times, scoring 1 goal. And he scored his first international goal on August the 14th of 2013 in a friendly against Argentina at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome. And he's got 3 brothers, all footballers. His brother Roberto also plays for Napoli, but he's currently on loan at Serie B side Avellino. He's married with 2 children, and he is proud to be called Scugnisio, which is a word in Naples to define a particularly kind of cheeky, savvy youngster who gets up to mischief in the streets. Sounds a lot like our Danny. I just want to get very briefly just a couple of lines from you guys about what sort of player you think he is. Tom, let's start with you. What have you seen of Insigne?
I first remember him from playing in the under-21s tournament where he knocked England out. I think it was a great free kick he scored actually in the game. But mostly you can relate him quite well to our hipsters choice from the previous week and how Correa. They're both like Correa is actually 4 inches taller, but the way Correa uses his low centre of gravity, Insigne definitely uses the same thing to get past players as well as his rapid speed. He's a deft finisher as well. I've noticed when he does actually get into the point of scoring. He's a great player to have in the side, and he definitely has a good partnership with Gonzalo Higuain. So if you got those 2 firing for you can't really complain.
No, absolutely. He's certainly a talent. Drew, what have you seen, obviously, in your sort of brief glimpses of him, either at national or a local level, sort of club level?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think he's a better player for club than country, simply because I think he works so well with Higuain. They're very 2 similar players in the fact that both of them like to lay offs, make runs off the ball, play that 1-2 triangle kind of pass together. They feed off each other so much. So both of them are having a fantastic season right now because of how well they click on the pitch together. I think that's huge. But it'd be interesting to see, despite how talented he actually is, if he can actually perform consistently, for the Italian national team. It's been a while since they've had attacking players who routinely can show up in a match and then sort of dictate the result. They haven't had that for a very long time, since maybe you can even argue probably since Del Piero, if people remember him. So not that I don't think he's at that level, but he has a talent to influence a match. But he needs to be able to do it when Higuain is not there. So for me, that's my only question mark on him. But despite that, I think he's a very talented player.
Yeah, good stuff. And John, I know you're licking your lips in anticipation. What do you want to share with us as our resident Serie A expert?
Well, there's very few players that excite me when I'm watching them more than Lorenzo Insigne. Him and Florenzi, 2 in particular in Serie A. He's done really well, especially this season, and as Drew was just saying, the partnership he's got with Gonzalo Higuain is fantastic. His problem at the national level is perhaps that they don't play a system that really suits him, and they have a forward at the moment they're playing Graziano Pella, so you don't really get the best out of Insigne. You actually missed off, he's got 4 assists this season, not 3. But if you it's terrible, I know. But if you need any convincing about the kid's talent, it's despite all these arguments with Napoli fans and the board and the managers and stuff previously in the past, that they want to take the number 10 shirt out of retirement and give him Diego Maradona's number 10 shirt, and even Maradona himself has backed the decision. Insigne at the moment doesn't want the shirt, but if that doesn't say what people think about his ability and his talent, then I don't know what else does.
And would it be fair to say, I know if you look at him as a player, obviously, socks around the ankles, he sort of plays with that bit of swagger and kind of flashness. Would it be fair to say that he's got a bit of a reputation as troublemaker? I don't know. Is that a fair word?
Yeah, he is that kind of player. He's got that kind of arrogance. It's he's from that area, and it is a not to offend anyone who is an Italian who's listening, but it is a bit of a trait of the southern Italians, of the Napolitans, as they say. Their blood runs a bit hotter than the rest of the Italians, so he uses that to his advantage in the way that you would see players. Sort of Rooney was someone who was younger, had that fire in him. Premier League fans will remember, and anyone who has that bit of skill and flashness, they have to have a bit of arrogance. Ronaldo has it. Even Messi, maybe people don't see it, but he does have that arrogance. Neymar, those kind of players. Not that he's at their level, but I think having that flair and ability, you need to have that bit of I'm better than everyone else on the pitch about you when you're playing that kind of football.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a final, very brief, in fact, one word answer, yes or no. If he was to leave Napoli, would he make it in another league?
Yeah, I think so.
Good stuff. I don't think he'll leave, but we just like to throw these questions out here. We're hipsters after all. Good stuff. So as usual, if you want to look up Lorenzo Insigne, obviously feel free. If you want to tweet us some various bits and bobs that you might have seen, any clips or whatnot, we will endeavour to retweet the best of them. And obviously any questions that you have, please do drop us a line. And thanks as always to Kelly, our researcher, for that information. Does a fantastic job as always. Right, so with the Hipsters Choice all done, let's now move on to our team of the week. Okay, so the team of the week, our opportunity to pick out 11 of the best from this weekend. Some people agree, some people disagree, but that's part of what doing this is all about. So let's put some time and music on the clock, and team of the week this week is... So in goal, we have decided to go for Newcastle United's Rob Elliott. Won't be a massive surprise, this one, I don't think. He was absolutely outstanding in this game. Newcastle certainly weren't at the races. In fact, they were battered from start to finish by Bournemouth, but Elliott's fantastic performances and saves, more importantly, got them the points. At right back, we've gone for Isiaga Silla, who's the right back of AC Ajaccio. Right back in the mix as far as Ligue 1 go. He was absolutely fantastic in their win away at Ram. In the central defence, I've gone with Dominic Moreau. Drew pretty much said everything you needed to know about his performance when they played Cologne this weekend. He makes it into... playing for Cologne this weekend. He makes it into the team of the week. He's joined at centre-half by Antonio Rudiger, who's the Roma centre-back. Obviously, their 2-0 win over Lazio in the Rome derby. He looks like a player who's growing week by week, so he's made it into the team of the week as a centre-half. At left-back, we have gone with Ryan Hollingshead, who may be not a name familiar with those in European football. He plays left-back for FC Dallas. He's not actually a left-back by trade. He's more of a midfielder, but he was doing a job yesterday and performed very, very well. Leadership by example. Superb performance when he was playing in that game of the victory over Seattle Sounders, which we mentioned previously. Into the midfield we go. We have gone for Fiorentina's Federico Bernachetti. What a player this guy looks. Tricky, 2 feet, quick, eye for goal. Really does look like a massive talent to me. He's a sort of player that would fit into the Italian national side, I think. If he hasn't been capped already, he soon will be. But he's a tricky little player and certainly makes it into the side this week. He performed very well in Fiorentina's win away at Samp. He's joined by West Ham's Manuel Lanzini, I should say, not Mauro Lanzini. He's a little-known Argentine, came across from River Plate in pre-season. Very small, very diminutive. The Argentine Joe Cole, the West Ham fans have nicknamed him. And he looks the part, scoring goals, creating assists. He scored an absolute beauty in the home draw with Everton, that 1-1 draw. So he's made it in as well. Tom mentioned Danny Parejo, who also joins the midfield this week. 2 goals, 2 assists in Valencia's victory. He was a surefire pick for Team of the Week this week, so he gets into our midfield as well. And that just leaves us with 3 strikers. We've gone with a 4-3-3 system this week because we had to crowbar in 3 strikers. This week I've gone with, I couldn't leave out Solomon Kalou, could I? God bless him. Takes a lot of stick, but bless him. 3 goals this weekend. He's fired Hertha Berlin right at the Bundesliga table, so he makes it into our Team of the Week. As does Kai Kamara, the man who scored 2 goals and was even able to miss a penalty in Columbus Crew's victory in the MLS playoffs, and he is the MLS top scorer this season, so he's banging form. And the final piece of our Team of the Week jigsaw puzzle this week goes to Alexandre Lacazette, who also scored a hat-trick in Lyon's derby victory over St Etienne. Again, a player who's received an awful lot of criticism this season, certainly hasn't been on it, but with his 3 goals getting the points, he makes it in as our number 9. So that's our Team of the Week. As usual, drop us a tweet. You might agree, you might disagree, but it's always fun to share opinions, and we will of course post that Team of the Week on our Twitter account so you can see it in all its glory. Right, so the only thing that remains this week are some handshakes and some questions. We'll start with the questions, the onion bag. Okay, so the onion bag, our opportunity to answer your questions. You can tweet us at the FH Podcast, and we will do our best to answer any questions that you may have. We're going to start with a question for... who should we start with this week? Let's start with Tom, and this is a question from Jack Jones, who's at Jack M Jones 99, and he says, who do you think will replace David Moyes at Real Sociedad? Of course, David Moyes has been sacked today. What do you reckon, Tom?
Oh, well, we can do some breaking news on the Football Hipsters podcast, where we already know now that Eusebio has taken over as manager of Real Sociedad, the former Barcelona B and Celta Vigo manager. He comes in with pretty much the same playing style that you'd want for Sociedad, a nice, neat football, especially when you get that from being a coach at Barcelona. So I'm sure he will do well. He will do well there. Just a little bit about him. He actually got 200 appearances for Barcelona, 129 appearances for Real Valladolid as well. But yeah, I'm sure he can come in. He can do a job. I mean, at the end of the day, Moyes did have to go. It was mooted 2 weeks ago that Eusebio was contracted to come in. But the owner decided he would give Moyes 2 more weeks, especially when you got a crucial clash against Las Palmas coming up to resurrect your reputation. But losing away to a team who have been pretty much destined for the relegation zone really isn't going to help your standards in trying to keep your job. And at the end of the day, he had to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And just with regards to Moyes, John, you wanted to make a quick point on this as well?
Yeah, it was just the Eusebio news. I must admit, when I read the name Eusebio, I thought, he's a bit old to be a manager, isn't he? I'm sure, he's a wonderful player, and I'm sure he knows a lot about football. And then I was like, hang on a minute, I'm sure I remember he died last year. And then I looked it up, I was like, oh, no, not that Eusebio. Sorry, because I'm sure there's probably someone listening who's probably was like half brain dead like I am sometimes and just completely gets them mixed up.
So easily done, isn't it? So easily done. Okay, another question coming in here, and this one is from Josh Maddox. I'll take this one at 888Josh888. Wondering if you know what's going on with Talisca this year. Was massive at the start of last year, but seems to have vanished. This is the Benfica Brazilian Talisca, who, as Josh points out, there was red hot at the start of last season. Tipped to be one of the big superstars or breakout players this year. I think it's fair to say he has been a bit quiet. He's playing in a team that is not itself. I think it's fair to say Benfica are a team since losing Juan Jesus. They're certainly not the force of old. And Talisca was given his sort of start by by Jesus. So he's not been in scintillating form, just the one goal this season, 7 starts for the side. He is still young. That's the thing. He's 21 years of age. I think there's plenty of chance or plenty of time for him to come back in and pick up the reins. So, I wouldn't write him off too soon, but it would be fair to say that he has dropped off the radar yet. I'm sure that, he has dropped off the radar recently, but I'm sure it's too quick to just say he's gone. I think there'll be time when he'll come back. There's a few issues about his attitude as well, so one to keep an eye on, and certainly one worth bringing up. So thank you very much for that question. But what else we got here? Let's see if we can find one for you, Drew. Yes, even though this is kind of Spanish, I'm going to go to you, Drew, because I know you know a bit about these players. Wengerolic, or at Wengerolic, he's just got a dot as his name, so we'll go with his Twitter handle. He says, out of Almeric, Laporte and Umtiti, who's at Lyon, which one would you think will become world class?
I think it's Almeric Laporte. Simple as that. I mean, Tom could probably go all day about him, but I just think he has the ingredients and the consistency that's necessary, and at such a younger age. I think for me, I think that'd be my choice.
Good stuff. Tom, do you tend to agree with that as a La Liga point of view?
Yeah, definitely. As far as I'm aware, he already has an agreement with Barcelona in the works. So if you want to go to a club and improve your defensive capabilities, it's definitely a great club to go to. But yeah, he's a great at intercepting play and reading the game and thinking before the striker. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, good shout. I'm with you on that one. I like Samuel Umtiti. I think he's got the potential to be very good, but I'm not sure about world class. Time will tell on that one. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that one. There was a Ligue 1 question, so I'm gonna steal the limelight briefly, and it was from Win for Veru, who's at HPJ Goon, I should say. It says, is Ligue 1 turning into turning unpredictable like Bundesliga, where teams are swapping positions, barring PSG? I like the fact he's put bar PSG, because that was the first thing I thought when I read this question. In my opinion, yes, to a degree. I think Liga is definitely more competitive this year behind PSG. That's the disappointing thing about it, I think. It's a very much a one-team league as far as who's going to win it. But yeah, there are teams, Angers, we mentioned Caen, we mentioned even my beloved Lorient are putting in a decent fight in the top end of the table this year. And then when you look at teams like Bordeaux and Marseille, Lille floundering towards the bottom end, it just shows you how much time can change. Montpellier as well, obviously won the league just 2 seasons ago and now in sort of the bottom end of the league. So it is competitive. What I would say is if you want to watch a bit of Ligue 1 football, maybe avoid watching PSG because it's pretty likely they're going to win. Just briefly, Drew, do you tend to agree that the Bundesliga is much the same, i.e. you got one team that's probably won it and then the rest is fairly interesting?
Yeah, I would think so. I think usually it's I mean, at least right now anyway, it's always Bayern 1, and then anyone from 2 to 7 or 8 can fluctuate year on year. And it's always topsy-turvy roller coaster between those two spots all season long. But I think it's kind of interesting that way, especially if you can have a surprise or two come in there and sneak in there at the end. Khan and Liga might sneak in there this season. You never know. So I don't know. I don't mind it so much.
Yeah, me too. 3 quick ones to finish off. Tom, here's a quick one for you. Iñaki Williams' goal or Neymar's goal? That's from Dan_Arsenal 90. For
me personally, it has to be Iñaki Williams. Not that I'm a little bit more biased towards Bilbao, but so just to flick over so many defenders and then to get round those defenders, then get back on the ball to drop down and smash it in on the volley into the top left-hand corner. For me, has to take it. That takes nothing away from Neymar's goal. A little pirouette and flick was excellent. But for a 21-year-old new guy on the scene to come and do that in one of the top 5 leagues is great to see.
Yeah, good stuff. I just love the Neymar one. I don't know this. I know there's something about it, but it's just reminded me of a certain Dutchman who wore 10 at Arsenal. But moving on. Okay, here's another good one. Keep this brief, guys, but I'll ask all of you. I'll give you one answer each for this. This is from Rob Parrott, Rob_Parrott. He wants to know who are some of the hipster players you would like to see move to bigger clubs in January or the summer. John, I'll give you the first one there.
That's really hard. I've got to pick someone from Serie A, have I? Ooh.
Yeah, just to make it more awkward.
Okay, just to make it extra awkward. I'll have to go with a slightly obvious one. I'll say Felipe Anderson. It might be a little bit too soon. I'd say hold on till the summer. But then, yeah, in the summer I'd like to see him take a step up, whether it's within Serie A to, say, one of the bigger, so-called bigger teams. I hate saying that about Lazio because they're a huge club, but they're less likely team to win the title. Well, not at the moment, although because it's very open. But yeah, I think Felipe Anderson is definitely one. There's a lot, because I would have said Daniele Regani, but he's already at Juventus. So,
Yeah,
you know, and also Domenico Berardi as well, even though he's at Sassuolo, but he's kind of owned by Juve. So again, he's not exactly going to a bigger club than Juventus. So it's difficult to pick one out, as most of them are owned by the best teams. But yeah, I'll go for Anderson.
Good stuff. No worries. Tom, who have you got?
Oh, I'm going to shock you now and say I'm going to go with the guys on loan at Espanyol from Real Madrid. Asensio. He's a attacking midfielder, doing great stuff there. And even though he's young, I think he really could do it at the big time.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Drew, one from the Bundesliga from you?
He's already at a bigger club. Ricardo Rodriguez, left back for Wolfsburg. But I'm really curious to see when he's going to make the jump away from the Bundesliga.
You mean to Bayern Munich?
No, because they have David Alaba, and unless they use Alaba as a defensive midfielder, which they may, they wouldn't buy him. But I could see him going to somewhere. I can see him going to a bigger club in another league for sure.
Yeah, he suits, to me. He looks like a player who'd fit in England really well.
He does, and because he's not German, he doesn't have that necessarily will to want to stay in the Bundesliga. He could easily just leave the league, whereas someone who's, obviously a German national might just want to stay there. So
yeah, absolutely, and has often been mistaken for wrestler Roman Reigns. Just Google the two. If you maybe throw in Rob Trujillo from Metallica as well. The three of them look identical. It's quite scary. Anywho, I'll give you one from my league then, just to be just to keep up the trend. Rob, I'm going to give you Bernardo Silva. Who is currently plying his trade at Monaco. I'm so tempted to go for Nabil Fekir, but it's too obvious, so I'll stick with Silva. He's Portuguese player, kind of a playmaker, tricky, intricate, very good on the ball. 3 goals this season and 12 appearances. He's an assist machine. He's only 21 years of age. This is kind of his breakthrough season. He was playing at Benfica, not really getting a game, then sort of dropped down the level to Benfica's second team, and then got the move to Monaco in the 2014-15 season. And he's gone from strength to strength. 9 goals last season for Monaco, and I say 3 already this season. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on. 21 years of age, and certainly has the future at his feet, in my humble opinion. So yeah, he's my call. Okay, a final question. It's another one for me, and it is in regards to Alexandre Lacazette. My little anyone that knows me knows I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Laka. The question is, he says as he desperately tries to find it. It's also from Wengerolik. It's difficult to say, that is. So he asks, is Lacazette proving to be a one-season wonder, as people said Harry Kane is, but haven't said the same about Alexandra? It's a difficult one to answer. He's not been in form, it's fair to say. He had a lot of speculation about him in the summer. Would he stay? Would he go? He elected to stay with Lyon. Then in the week, some of his comments suggested that maybe he doesn't want to stay at Lyon. And then he bounces back with a hat-trick last night to win the derby. So it's a really difficult one to say. What I would say with Lacazette, it's very hard to judge him when he hasn't got the likes of Fekir behind him, because he supplied an awful lot of his bullets to shoot last year. He's an immensely talented footballer. Whether he would make it at the very, very top level, that remains to be seen. I'd really like to see how he would do if he made the big move. My biggest concern is he'll end up at PSG, because I think when Zlatan moves on and they play Cavani through the middle and inevitably find out Cavani's not actually that good, I have a feeling that PSG might move for him. And my worry then is, will he just be a reserve striker? That's the concern. But hey ho, we shall see what happens. John, you wanted to just add something on Lacazette as well?
Yeah, interestingly, I'm sure some people saw in the news that Karim Benzema has been questioned and charged over this Matthew Valbuena sex tape, and Benzema has now been charged over allegedly trying to influence Valbuena to pay the I was about to say ransom fee, but the blackmail fee for this so-called sex tape. That could end up actually giving Lacazette a big chance to play for France at the Euros. because I would imagine he would be, despite the fact that Giroud is in very good form, he's the closer player to Benzema in terms of style and the way that the French national team like to play. So he could actually get a very good chance, possibly, depending on what happens with all this Matthew Valbuena sex tape malarkey that is going on. He could get himself a good chance in the national side.
Yeah. It'd be very interesting to see what he's like as the main man as well. So that'll be worth.
Because I believe Valbuena, Benzema have all been dropped from the team, and along with a few other French players, haven't they, over all this?
Yes, Deschamps is not a happy chap,
Yes.
and he certainly doesn't strike me as the sort of guy to mess with regards to off the field antics. So
Not like the French national team to shoot themselves in the foot before a major tournament.
no, it's almost like the Dutch and the French every single time. It's just the same thing happens, doesn't it? Good stuff. Okay, so that's pretty much all our listener questions, and that's almost it for the show. A couple of quick things. Nikolai at AFC, he tweeted the podcast. I've retweeted it, and he said he recommended the Copenhagen derby last week's pod. It ended 0-0 between Brøndby and Copenhagen. I watched it. It wasn't the most exciting game, but these things happen when two big teams meet. But he wanted to highlight the tifo that the Copenhagen fans made, which was superb. And I've retweeted a link to that on our page on the YouTube. It's a YouTube video. Fantastic tifo that the team put together. So I wanted to give a shout to him. And speaking of shouts, we had a couple of hipster handshakes coming in late in the day. For those of new listeners that we might have, all three of you, this is a segment where if you tweet us using the hashtag, which we have as hashtag hipster handshakes with an S, you can get a team allocated to you, which goes on our website, which is www.thefootballhipsterspodcast.co.uk. We will put a little badge of your chosen hipster club and your Twitter name, and indeed your name next to it if you want to provide it with us, and then you can interact with fellow fans of that club. So it's a nice little way of doing things. Couple this week, Jeff Waddell, he says, I've followed Werder Bremen since Dundee United beat them in the early 80s UEFA Cup. Those were the days. Sigh. That's a good tweet. Love that. Also, at the Guna Talk, Cork City, he's given us. So they are yours. Mario Rivas, friend of the pod, he says, right here, boys, Toronto FC. So Toronto goes to Mario. And the final one from Jack Jones, Ittihad IBB from the Yemen First Division. Now,
he's made that up.
He must have made that up, I swear. We will do our research and check that that's real, but if that is real, that's probably the most bizarre hipster handshake we've ever had, and we'll set about our team to try and find the badge of that team. That'll be a tough one.
If that's a genuine team, then we'll try and get Danny to do coverage, because the names of the players on that team will be fantastic for Danny to say.
Can you imagine it? Honestly, Danny will be all over that, so yeah, we'll definitely try and do that. Right, okay, well that brings us to the end of our show, funnily enough. Just a couple of little bits of housekeeping to keep you in touch with. Next week, as you'll probably be aware, is an international break. So we are going to do something different. We are going to do our very first live edition of the show. Now we need your help. Anyone that's listening to this, we want to try and get as many people watching as we can for the first time. We want to try and get some more people listening into us and try and get some more people interacting with us. So we're going to do a live show. It will be on Google Hangouts, which will be via YouTube, via our YouTube account, and just search for us at Football Hipsters Podcast on YouTube. And basically it will just be as many of the teams we can get together, sat on Skype, talking. That will be it. The agenda will be down to you guys. Any questions you've got for us? We are going to touch on a couple of segments like our favourite players, a couple of sort of players to watch. We're also going to touch on the Golden Boys list that was released this week. We'll talk a little bit of Champions League, a little bit of Domestic League. We'll talk about all things football. We'll probably go for sort of an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, depending on how many people we've got interacting with us. But if there's anything you want to ask us, rather than sending us questions, just be online. We'll announce the times nearer the time, but it will likely be this time next week in place of our usual pod, so sort of late in the evening on a Monday night. So keep across that. And also, as usual, at the FH Podcast is our Twitter account. Give us a follow, interact with us. If you're following us and we're not following you back, please give us a nudge and we will follow you back. Final thing to mention, blogs. We are looking for your blogs. We've had a fantastic blog come in from Pete Kennelly, friend of the show. He's written an excellent blog on the Australian A-League, which we will be publishing this week. And that will be going on our website, which Kat is fantastic, doing some fantastic work for us on that site, as is her partner Var. So keep an eye on our website. There's lots of stuff going up at the moment. And as I say, Pete's blog will be going up. But if you want to blog for us, it doesn't matter what the subject is, as long as it's football. Can be anywhere around the world. Can be on a player. Can be on a game. Can be on your experience as a supporter of a club. Whatever it is, if you want to write for us, just drop us a line at our email address on the website, and we will get it published. So that's it, gentlemen. That's the end of episode 4 of the Football Hipsters. It just remains for me to thank my guests. So thank you to John.
Cheers, Chris.
And thank you to Tom.
Pleasure, sir.
And thank you to Drew.
Thanks very much, guys.
And as always, keep your beard strong and your glasses trendy. And we will speak to you in our very first live edition next week. Thanks for downloading and choosing the Football Hipsters podcast. Remember, you can follow us at the FH Podcast on Twitter, or our website www.footballhipsterspodcast.co.uk. You can also follow us on Twitter individually at AFCFreddy8 for me, Chris, or for Danny it's at @the_GFP, for John it's at JWelsh84, for Tom it's at TCanton94, for Drew it's at AFCBVB1410, for Jake it's at JakeArsenal1, for our producer Gaz, it's at GazmanJones. And for our researcher Kelly, it's at Kelly_Mayor. We'll speak to you next week.